This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Now, with a look at local, regional, and international NASCAR racing, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. The first day of May, a beautiful Wednesday here in Concord, North Carolina. I'm joined by Kyle Rickey up in Connecticut. And Kyle, the talk of the weekend was the Spring Sizzler up at Stafford Motor Speedway, but unfortunately for you, Mother Nature had other plans.
You mean the Spring Drizzler?
Yes.
Here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. I'm glad it's nice down there. You like that? I learned actually on a news report earlier today here in Connecticut where April 2019 was the wettest month on I know, mind blown. Not just the wettest April ever, but the wettest month ever since they've been measuring those type of things. So there's been a lot of that happening here. So Thompson a few weeks ago got lucky. They were one of the April that, wow, we are all full of sound effects today, where it didn't rain. However, we got problems.
I'm sorry. I can't even focus with you trying to concentrate and do this when they've got the sound effects. Anyways, continue, Thompson.
I think this is one of the traits of a really good producer. Keep the talent happy.
Apparently, we got a new sound effects machine this week that no one told me about. Justin Bonsignor led both practices over the weekend here. Doug Coby, Chase Dowling, Rob Summers, Ron Silk, the top five. Outside of those practice sessions, that was it. We had hail, we had snow, we had a tornado watch, and we didn't have sunshine. Hopefully that's this weekend.
Yeah, well, like you said, this weekend, the Spring Sizzler has been rescheduled to this up-and-coming weekend. Are you going to be able to go this weekend?
I will be here this weekend. Can't wait. Are you coming up?
I am not. I am actually going somewhere else. I will be at South Boston Speedway as the K&N East is back in action as well for Who's Your Driver Twin 100s. It's been a while since we've seen them race. I think it was Bristol, right? The last race for K&N?
They've had two races this year. New Smyrna Speedway in February, Bristol last month. Sam Mayer, the championship point leader after winning at Bristol by 3 points over Derek Kraus. Yeah,
15-year-old found his way into victory lane. So full weekend ahead of us as far as action between the NASCAR touring divisions. But the K&N East returns, like we said, Twin 100s. In the past 9 races that they've gone there, they've had 9 different winners find victory lane, and none of those previous winners are scheduled in this up-and-coming weekend's race. Who you got your eye on for this weekend?
So you're saying there's a chance for a 10th different winner?
There is, statistically
like 100%
speaking.
chance.
Right.
I don't know. Colin Garrett's been running well lately.
Local boy, too, with a track championship.
Right. He knows the place well. 4th in points, just 11 points out. Obviously, you look at Sam Mayer as one of the winners from earlier this year. And there's a driver from, I believe, Rev Racing making his debut at South Boston this weekend.
Yes, he is. There's actually 3 cars being fielded by Rev Racing this up-and-coming weekend. You've got Chase Cabry, who's hungry for that win. He led laps here last year at South Boston. Ruben Garcia Jr., who's obviously found victory already this year in the NASCAR Peak Mexico Series. But Nick Sanchez will be making his debut in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. He's part of their NASCAR Whelen All-American Series program right now. And he's also come up through their Legends program as well. So he's no stranger to the Rev Racing and Drive for Diversity program. So looking forward to seeing him this up-and-coming weekend at South Boston. But we'll also be joined by him later in the studio, as well as his Rev Racing teammate, Brooke, who's part of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series Rev Racing late model program. So looking forward to having both of them come on here, talk about everything Rev Racing, and maybe we'll pick Nick's brain a little bit about how nervous he is. So when we return, we'll be joined by Nick Sanchez here in studio here on Coast to Coast.
O'Reilly. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $28.95 and get a $10 O'Reilly gift card by mail. Protect your engine from sludge and wear with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested to meet the toughest industry certifications on the road, in the air, and around the world. Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Looking towards the weekend? Aren't Thursdays a drag? Ours too. Get your weekly dose of nitro-fueled NHRA talk every Thursday on The Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is Ralph Shaheen. Join Doug Herbert and myself as we talk with the biggest names, both past and present, to ever stomp down on the loud pedal. Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, motorcycles, you name it, we talk about it. Don't miss The Straight Line, Thursdays on MRN.com, iTunes, or wherever your favorite podcasts are heard.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
The NASCAR K&N Pro Series East rolls into South Boston Speedway in Virginia this weekend for twin 100s in the Who's Your Driver 100. And a driver making his debut in the K&N Pro Series East, Nick Sanchez, coming out of the Rev Racing program, joins us in studio now. Nick, first off, thanks for coming on and joining us in studio here.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So you've made your way up through their late model program as well as their legend program. You're actually a competitor mainly on their NASCAR Whelen All-American Series, but we'll be climbing behind the wheel of a K&N car this weekend. Any nerves?
Yeah, there's many. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just the driving, the media, all the attention. It's something I'm really not used to, but I'm excited.
Let's go back to the start of what got you involved in motorsports. Understand you attended your first NASCAR event ever at your home track, Homestead Miami Speedway down in South Florida. What about that event got you hooked and then ultimately got you behind the wheel of a go-kart?
Just the speed of the whole thing, it's pretty exciting, and I've always been fascinated by anything with the engine. Ever since I was 2-3 years old, I've been riding ATVs through the woods of my house. And, just one day I begged my parents to put me in a go-kart when I was about 12, and here I am.
You've got teammates Chase Cabry, Ruben Garcia Jr., both who have been, successful drivers in the K&N Pro Series East. Their second, if not third year with the program as well. Have you been picking their brains on maybe what to expect this up-and-coming weekend?
Oh, yeah. I've been bugging them all week, just watching footage from last year and previous years, and just trying to get as much info as I can.
A lot of drivers have found success in the Rev Racing team, the Drive for Diversity program over the years. Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, just a couple that have come to mind over the last 5 or 6 years or so. For you, what was the application process like? And then ultimately going through the combine, some of the tough points of that combine to ultimately become accepted into the Rev Racing team?
It was definitely a little tricky. I kind of went out on a limb and applied for Rev and not knowing what to expect, at least in the Legend Car program. And I applied and never actually went to a combine. They just kind of chose me off a random list. And went through the summer of 2017 with Rev, found great success in a Legend car, and then eventually they let me go to the big combine, and I got to prove myself in a bigger car.
Now, you raced at the summer shootout for the Legend program, right?
Yeah.
What was that whole program like, racing out at Charlotte Motor Speedway throughout the summer? I know it's weeknights racing, and I've never driven a Legend, but I've heard, the competition over the summer shootout is definitely intense.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a cool experience. I mean, that was my first ever time in an oval car, so it was definitely cool to do it at a big NASCAR track. And they're a handful to drive. I mean, they teach you a lot about car control and just saving your stuff week in, week out.
You've run some other events this year in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series in the late model. Myrtle Beach Speedway, you picked up a pole earlier this year, finished third, finished second in a couple of events there, part of a twin bill. Went to Langley this past weekend, finished fourth and second in twin 70s. How would you rate the season so far? And what does your schedule look like the rest of the summer as far as the late model stuff is concerned?
This season's just been amazing for me and my team. I mean, every track we've gone to every weekend, we've been in contention to win. I think now we should have had around 3 or 4 wins, but we'll get ours soon. If you look at this year compared to last year I think I did 7 or 8 races, not a single top 5. And this year, I think we've only finished out of the top 5 once. So it's truly been an amazing year, and we still have plenty of races to go. I mean, we're still gonna go to Sobo Motor Mile, so hopefully I'll be able to pick up a win sooner than later.
Now, you mentioned that there, the difference between your finishes last year at the tail end of it, going into this year and the success that you found. What was it maybe that you took away from 2018 and you've applied to 2019 that's really hit on this success?
Mostly it's just seat time, just taking a step back and looking at what I'm doing wrong as a driver. And also my team, they've stepped up the program. They've given me the best of the best equipment.
How'd the deal come together for you for this weekend? Obviously, when you're listed on the Rev Racing site, you're a NASCAR Whelen All-American Series late model driver at some of the tracks that we mentioned a moment ago. How did this opportunity come about for you? And in turn, how have you prepped for it?
This opportunity's been in the works, I would say, ever since I started the Legend Car stuff. Rev's end goal is to put their drivers in the K&N car. So it's a ladder that you step. Each time you progress, you try to get in a bigger and better car. And, finally I've improved as a driver enough, so they're going to let me run the big stuff.
Now, we talked about those late model races that you have ran, 70-lap races. This weekend, twin 100, so 200 laps in total. Probably the longest race that you've been in, let alone two of them back-to-back. Physically, how have you prepared for this, and how have you prepared for this mentally as well?
Physically, every day in the Rev Gym, I train with Chase and Ruben, so I think I should have that part covered. But, mentally, it's a lot more. 100 laps back-to-back, you got to save your tires, you got to know how to save the car and not put yourself in a position that'll affect you later on.
You say you've improved from a year ago from the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series late model, allowing the opportunity this weekend in a K&N car. Where do you believe those improvements are, and what do you attribute to allowing those improvements to happen from year to year?
I think most of those improvements are attributed to Myrtle Beach, just teaching me how to save my tires and just
indeed.
And just unloading the car and getting faster and faster in practice and not taking as much time to work on the car, I guess you could say.
Now, your NASCAR Whelen All-American Series teammates, you've got Brooke and Gracie Trotter, both who are familiar with the late model world. Brooke coming from super late models and sportsmen's. Gracie, who did, I don't know if she did much late model stock, but I know she's also been, heavy in the super late models as of recently. And no pressure here because we knew when we have Brooke in studio, but what's it been like having Gracie and Brooke as your teammates?
They're definitely cool. It's a big change from having Ryan, Ruben, and Chase last year, all boys, to just Brooke and Gracie. So it's been a cool change, but they've been really cool to hang with, talk to, and they're really cool on the racetrack.
I follow a lot of you guys on social media, and it appears that when the NASCAR K&N cars are running, most of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series drivers are there to support. What have you learned about these cars and just the way those events work at a Bristol and a New Smyrna earlier this year?
Whenever I go to a K&N race, I make sure to listen throughout practice and qualifying and the race to make sure I kind of get the full info of where their car is heading and what direction they want it to go to, and it kind of helps me put all the info into my late model race.
And fortunately for you, coming from someone who's raced these late models and these K&N cars, the transition's pretty simple there. Like you said, it is just going to be a lot of learning of these longer races and everything that goes into what a K&N race is. You got South Boston coming up this up-and-coming weekend. You've got a lot of road course experience. Is there any future K&N races in the works so far?
Not really. I'm hoping if I make a big enough impact, the rest will come, but not yet.
Mentioned social media a moment ago. Where can fans go to follow you and your not only career this weekend at South Boston, but also your career for the rest of the season and going forward?
All my socials, Twitter, Insta, and Facebook are all Nick Sanchez 080.
Perfect. Well, there you guys go. Joined in studio now by Nick Sanchez, who will be making his K&N Pro Series East debut this up-and-coming weekend, Twin 100s at South Boston Speedway. Nick, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend. I will be there with NASCAR home track, so looking forward to it. And also, good luck in the late model the rest of the season.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Well, when we return here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, we'll be joined in studio also by Nick's teammate, Brooke, a driver in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series for Rev Racing.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice, Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
The family with the 8-foot stainless grill is in. Bachelorettes hooting at the drivers are in. The tightwad dad doing a free parking fist bump.
Oh, yeah.
He's in. Nano with 6 speeding tickets. She's in. Cornhole aficionados and NASCAR newbies in and in. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway. Saturday, May 11th, under the lights. Tickets at KansasSpeedway.com. You in?
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
One of the staple teams in the NASCAR world and part of the Drive for Diversity program, Rev Racing, who has a stable of talent every single year, and one of those drivers who's on their NASCAR Whelen All-American Series team this year. Brooke Storer joins us in studio today. Brooke, thanks for coming in and hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to doing this.
Yeah, now, sorry, I'm going to say it now. I know I left you a little hanging last week. We were going to try and get you in last week, and then we got really excited about the Spring Sizzler, and I forgot to text you back for like 3 days about coming in. So, thank you for coming in.
I appreciate it. I was excited whenever you texted me.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad it worked out. To start everything off, this is your first year on the Rev Racing team. You went through the Combine. We had talked to Nick about it a little bit earlier, but he had a little bit of a different experience going through the Combine, getting to be part of the program. What was the whole Combine experience for like you and finding out that you made the team?
It was funny. Like, it was the first time I ever applied to even go to the Combine, and I got the email that I was accepted and invited to the Combine. So just right there, I was shocked. And when I got the opportunity to go to there and prove myself against all those other drivers, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot in those 2 days, and then we ended up making the team. We found out, and ever since then, it's just been amazing since I've been here working with everybody at Rev Racing and Max Siegel.
20 years old, from Land O'Lakes, Florida. You've participated in a lot of asphalt oval track racing down there in Central Florida on some of the short tracks. What ultimately got you involved in motorsports and your interest in becoming a driver?
My whole family's been racing since forever, really, and my dad got me in a go-kart when I was like 7 years old. So since then, I've wanted to do nothing else, and we've been just moving up the ranks ever since then.
Now, this year, you're part of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series team. You've raced everything, though, from pro trucks, super late models. You still run Sportsman's, actually back home in between your Rev Racing schedule. But part of the Rev Racing team, you're running late model stocks for them. How does that differ from everything you've raced? Because they definitely are different.
Yeah, they are totally different from what I race. I mean, even the Supers and the Sportsman back home, they're all pretty close in horsepower, but chassis-wise, suspension-wise, totally different. It's taken me a little bit to adapt to these late model stocks, but we're definitely getting the hang of it, and I really look forward to the rest of the season with Rev Racing.
How would you kind of sum up the year so far? Myrtle Beach a couple of weeks ago, a doubleheader, a 9th and a 14th. This past weekend at Langley, an 8th and a 13th. Thoughts on how you are adapting to these late models after the first couple of weekends of the season with Rev?
I feel like I'm finally getting the hang of it. They're just totally different. And we've had a little bit of bad luck on our side, but I know it's going to get better. My team is just working nonstop, and they put in so much effort into all this, and I know that we'll be getting the top threes here very soon.
Now, aside from the actual being at the racetrack and working with the Rev Racing team, something that I know they push really heavily is, how to present yourself as drivers. You guys are very hands-on with the NASCAR community. What's it been like to be part of the Rev Racing and Drive for Diversity team away from the racetrack?
It's been amazing. I mean, every day we spend time at the shop. We go and do different events, and being able to do that and experience these types of things with my teammates, it's such a big learning factor in everything, whether the media, the photo shoots, everything. And it teaches you a lot of even just being a better person.
Hannah mentioned the combine to start this interview. There's a lot of different aspects of that combine with the physical part of the week, the driving part, the media part. What was the toughest part for you as part of your first combine?
It was on Monday. We had the media segment, the first thing, and that's what I was the most nervous about. And I felt like I did better than I was expecting to do, but on Tuesday when we got to the driving part, I felt like I was back at home, especially having a little bit of experience at New Smyrna Speedway. So once I got Monday over with, I was much more confident going into Tuesday.
Well, as you know, I've been through that combine, and ironically enough, the media was the one I was not worried about. Yeah. But the physical side of it, I know you guys work with Coach Phil Horton, who's actually a really big pit coach. You know, he trains a lot of these NASCAR. Did you guys have to do the gauntlet for your guys' physical fitness test?
No, they said that this year was a little bit different than in previous years, but it was still very physically demanding.
Oh, it was so jealous because I know the gauntlet, every time I just dreaded it, and the words just make me cringe. But how important is the physical aspect? I mean, do you guys still work with Coach Phil? I know Nick had mentioned that he works out with Chase and Ruben. I mean, that's something where they really push over there.
Oh, yeah. Coach Horton is awesome. I mean, every day he pushes you to be better, and he's a big factor in everything at Rev Racing. And like every race, it plays a factor. I mean, Twin 70s last week, you can easily get tired doing that stuff. And, I mean, just training with him has definitely made me more, I don't know, have better endurance and be able to last in those longer races.
Been watching you on social media the last couple of weeks. A lot of time on the road, going back and forth between Florida and Charlotte. Reminds me of Ryan Preece when he was running the modified up here in the Northeast. He'd always make the trip back up north when he wasn't running the JGR car in the Xfinity Series the last couple of years. What's your summer look like? How many of those trips do you plan on making when obviously you're not in Charlotte and in that area running for Rev?
Pretty much every weekend that I'm not running for Rev or going to a K&N race supporting my teammates, I'm back in Florida running the Wheelman Series or running just local races at New Smyrna Speedway and Auburndale Speedway. I mean, I think this season I have a total of 38 races lined up, so definitely staying busy.
Now, I've actually got the chance to experience a couple races down in Florida just as a fan, as far as super late model racing and late model racing itself, and it's a very different vibe, and the experience is very different for Florida late models and then to come up here and race. What's that experience been like, or how would you say Florida late model racing is different from racing up here in the South?
A lot of Florida drivers don't travel out of state to race, which I know like a lot of people from Charlotte area will go back down to Florida and race a few races. But yeah, so it is cool. Like I know I have a few super late model races planned with some teams up here, and I look forward to racing against those guys because it does seem a little bit like better racing up here. I'm not saying Florida's terrible, but there's more cars. It seems like super late model racing in Florida's dying off a little bit, which is terrible, and I definitely look to support them more. But yeah, looking forward to racing these guys up here and just seeing the difference as a driver, being out there with them, and just see what the difference is up here.
Educate us for a moment. You mentioned the Wheelman Series that you've been running down in Florida. Describe those cars if you can for me. You found some success in that series this year, a 7th in a feature a few weeks ago, a Dash for Cash win at 417 Speedway in Punta Gorda. What are those cars compared to, say, a super late model or a late model that you're running up in North Carolina?
Well, the easiest way to describe them is pretty much a pro late model with a outlaw wedge body. They're a little bit lighter and on 8-inch tires, so they're a handful, no grip, and you really got to drive them. But there is a lot of side force that comes with those bodies also, which has made it a little bit more difficult adapting to the late model stock stuff with just the normal ABC body, smaller spoilers, stuff like that.
They're definitely interesting to watch race. When I see videos, it's always just so confusing to know the difference between, like you said, the sportsman's and a pro late model and a super late model and a late model stock. I'm like, yeah, I'm from the West Coast, and I'm like, oh, well, if you look like a late model, you can probably race in the late model. Yeah. We don't really care. We just take what we can get out there. But what's the rest of your 2019 schedule look like as far as the Rev Racing? How many races do you have planned with them, and what's your next race considering? Will you be at South Boston this weekend hanging out with them?
Yep, I'll be there supporting that my team, and next weekend we'll be at Motor Mile with the late models.
Motor Mile, back in action the 2019 season. Glad to see them back up. Have you tested there at all?
No, I have never even seen the place, so I look to do some studying this week, watch some videos, and hopefully we can go get some testing in next week.
I just want to know how you've adapted to traffic in Mooresville. I saw you joking on Facebook a couple of weeks ago about how traffic on 77 just might be the death of you. It can't be that much worse than Florida, can it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm living in Cheryl's Ford right now, so the shop, Rev Racing shop, is here in Concord. So it takes me about an hour and 15 minutes one way, and to go I think it's 35 miles. I've never sat in traffic like this just on a daily basis. I mean, even if I want to go get dinner at night, it's a solid 45-minute ride to the nearest place to go get food.
I don't care who you are, if you have not been here and sat on I-77, it is the absolute worst.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll like you said, go get dinner, but it'll be 9:45 at night and it is dead stop. I'm like, what is going on that we could be stopped on 77 at 9:30 at night?
No, I don't understand.
I'll never understand it. Awesome. Well, like we did with Nick, if anyone wants to give you a follow on social media, where can they follow to keep up with all your Florida racing as well as your Rev Racing stuff this year?
Facebook is the most updated thing at Brooke Store Motorsports. Also Instagram and Twitter at Brooke Store 9. And give me a follow in there. I try to keep it updated as much as I can.
Perfect. If you want to keep up with both these drivers as well, always give Rev Racing a follow, which I think is at Rev Racing, right?
I believe so.
On Twitter. Christy Gormel's going to love me when she gets on here and goes, Hannah doesn't even know what our Twitter handle is. But Rev Racing, also, you can follow all of their stuff there for all the Rev Racing and Drive for Diversity drivers this year. Good luck this year. Hopefully everything works out for you. Good luck at Motor Mile in the next couple weeks, too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Brooke Store, a NASCAR Whelen All-American Series driver for Rev Racing, joined us in studio. But when we return, a couple races got their schedule in due to they beat Mother Nature this weekend. So when we return here on Coast to Coast, we'll find out who made their way to victory lane.
O'Reilly. Time to replace your vehicle's battery? Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts for the Do It Right rebate. For a limited time, purchase a Superstart Premium, Extreme, or Platinum battery and get up to a $15 O'Reilly gift card by mail. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
A name says a lot.
I'm Kyle. I'll be taking your order.
When you meet someone named Kyle, as in Kyle Busch, as in rowdy, as in 8 wins last season and more than 50 career wins, as in donuts for days. So, if the humble name Kyle doesn't sound so humble to you, you're family now. The summer's heating up. Follow what could be the Toyota racing family's best season ever at toyotaracing.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark for the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
When Mother Nature allows, short tracks all across the country continue their 2019 season, and a couple lucky drivers found their way into victory lane, Kyle.
Yeah, Bowman Gray Stadium, after a rainout last week, finally got their season opener in for the Hayes Jewelers 200 for their modified program, and Brian Lofton picked up the race win. Derek Stoltz won in the Sportsman. They're back in action this week for the Kevin Powell Motorsports 100. Colorado National Speedway ran. Cody Vanderwall picked up the Pro Truck win. Brett Yackey won in the Super Stocks. Their next event will be this Saturday night, May 4th, the return of their Super Late Model and Late Model divisions that were off last week. Larry King Law's Langley Speedway in action. Connor Hall and Brandon Queen split the twin 70-lap feature events. And we, of course, heard from Nick Sanchez and Brooke Store, both running in the top 10 in both of those races most of the night. And some other openers this week. You have Sunset Speedway up in Canada. Rained out. Actually, they were snowed out this past Saturday. They'll be back in action this week. Also, Stafford here, the Spring Sizzler, Take 2. Seekonk Speedway in Massachusetts will open up on Sunday. And the Star Speedway returns to NASCAR sanction in 2019. They will open up this Saturday night. Headline division, the 350 Super Modified. Should be a fast and fun night up there in New Hampshire.
And you mentioned it there a moment ago, the Spring Sizzler rescheduled for this up-and-coming weekend at Stafford, as well as the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East back in action at South Boston. So NASCAR's regional touring in full swing this up-and-coming weekend with both the modifieds and the K&N cars. And If you guys can't make it, definitely be sure to check out all the action on fanschoice.tv. Both races will be streamed there. And I know, Kyle, you'll be at the Sizzler, and I'll be at South Boston, so we've pretty much about got them covered this weekend.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at MRN Coast to Coast on Twitter, and it'll be we'll do our best to keep you up to date. And behind me right now, for the first time in 3 days, the sun has popped out here at the Stafford Motor Speedway.
I'll join in that
So
clap that we're hearing.
Hopefully it hangs around for this coming weekend. It should be a great weekend. Like we said, we got no racing in last weekend, just a couple of practice sessions. So we're going to get back at it here in a couple of days.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to it and looking forward to heading to South Boston for some Twin 100s in the K&N Pro Series East. But until then, I will look forward to talking to you next week. I'm Hannah Newhouse. This is Kyle Rickey. For producers Craig Moore and Jennifer Cochran, we'll see you next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast on the Motor Racing Network.
NASCAR Coast to Coast has been brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast can be found on MRN.com, Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast provider. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.